Happy Sober Girl Summer. I want to talk about in this video tips to stay sober over the summer if you're going alcohol free this summer or for whatever reason you are not drinking. I think this video will benefit you. I myself am 15 months sober. When does summer officially start? I'm not going to wear them for the whole video though. This could maybe be the first video in a series about healthy summer girl vibes. Today we're doing sober girl summer. I will see how I feel. I am in recovery, so it's not just a sober girl summer, it's a lifetime sober for me. What am I saying? The point is I have experience here and I want to help you. I am going to talk about how I went to a wedding sober, so I've done a big event sober. So these are the things that will help you have a sober girl summer of your own along with me. Take it one day at a time, and I know this might be cliche advice, but you're going to have days where you don't really care, right? Like you might be able to go to a barbecue or a friend's birthday dinner or whatever, and you might think, actually, I don't mind, having a lemonade. But there might also be times where you feel annoyed that you can't drink, but you've decided for whatever reason you want to do a sober girl summer. Just take it one day at a time and accept the fact that sometimes you're just not going to care about it and you're just going to be like, this is the way it is. And other times you're going to be like, oh, it's annoying. The next thing is to accept the fact that it might be weird going without a drink. I don't know where you're watching it from, but more than likely if you're watching this because I'm speaking in English, you're probably used to, in lots of social situations, drinking a lot or always having a glass in your hand. Now this is something you can obviously continue to do. That glass will be water or it'll be lemonade, Coke, whatever you like to drink. You can do mocktails as well if you like. I'm not that bothered. I'm quite happy with my lemonade. There is plenty of choice, plenty of options, and you will still be able to have that glass. But it might be weird if you're used to doing small talk after having a glass of Prosecco or a cider or a beer or whatever you drink with your friends, a cocktail. It might be weird, and just accept that. I'm big on acceptance. You might feel awkward being sober, you might feel awkward without your drink. Just lean into your cringe, embrace the fact that you might be a bit awkward and weird. I'm certainly awkward and weird. It doesn't matter, no one really cares. We'll get onto that as well. I think if you have accepted it or you're struggling to accept it, just get curious about what you're feeling. So are you feeling left out? Are you feeling like everyone's looking at you or everyone's judging you? Are you feeling like you don't have anything to say or somehow your personality's not coming out the same now that you've not had anything to drink? Just try and observe what's happening, what you're thinking, label it, and just sort of notice it. Do it as like a mindfulness exercise. Just see, right? Just get curious about what you're thinking. Another tip is to take a break if you need it. When I went to this sober wedding in October, I frequently just went to the loo and just chilled in there because it was quiet, or I went outside and there was a nice bench outside and I just sat and looked at the clouds. The moon was out, so that was nice. This probably won't be applicable in the summer. Just take a break if you need, because it can be very overwhelming. At least I find big events quite overstimulating, and particularly if you're not drinking, if you're doing your sober girl summer, you're not gonna have anything to take the edge off the fact that this is a very overwhelming, overstimulating environment with lots of noise, lots of people chatting, laughing, talking over each other, background music or a live band, whatever venue or place you're at. There's gonna be a lot going on if it's a big event. So do not be afraid to just step out if you need. I'm an introvert, so I find social events overwhelming anyway. Off the back of this, don't over-explain yourself and don't apologise. For me, the situation was a bit different because a lot of, not all of, but most of my family knew that I wasn't drinking at this event because my decline had been not public, but like everyone was aware of what had happened to me and was aware of the fact that I was in recovery and not drinking anymore. I didn't have to over-explain myself or apologise. But if you're in a setting with your friends or with friends of friends, whatever, there may be people who are like, oh, why are you doing that? Or they might be surprised, they might make certain assumptions. As hard as it is to not get caught up in what these people think, that's what you've got to do. You've just gotta not really care. I did a video recently about how to become unbothered, so I will link that for you if you want to check that out. You just need to really detach from any judgment, and you don't owe anyone an explanation. If you want to go into it, sure, but you definitely don't have to, and also don't apologise. That might seem like a weird thing to say, like why would you apologise for not drinking? But like I said earlier, drinking is such a normal part of our society, and particularly in big social events, it's so normal, so you might feel, and especially if we're talking about sober girl summer, you might feel the need to over apologise, and just don't. Some people might be pushy, particularly as the night goes on and people have had more drinks. Just stay away from those people. And if it is getting difficult and you feel like people are offering you drinks or you're running into new people and you feel like you're having to explain yourself over and over again, it's really important to remember your why. So I have my why. I don't want to relapse. You might be having just like in your sober curious era just to see what's happening. You might have had a particularly bad hangover and you're like, you know what, I just want to take a break away from alcohol for a bit. Remember your reason for not drinking, because that will help you in those moments when people are maybe offering you a drink or they're bothering you about why you're not drinking and you're wondering, oh, is this worth the trouble? Remembering your motivation will help you. Be prepared to refuse alcohol if you're offered it. Now, if you're with your friends and you've already explained the situation, hopefully there will be no problems there, but you may get offered by other people. I mean, I was at this event where, as I said, my family knew that I wasn't drinking, but even so, someone still offered me wine and it didn't bother me. I was just like, no, thank you. Be prepared with that no. Just have it so it's automatic. Just, it's something to be aware of. Don't like worry about it or stress about it. It's just, I stress about it a bit because my natural reaction would be like, yeah. So I'm very aware that I need to say no in that situation. Be prepared to refuse, and again, without explanation if you don't want to, and without apologizing. What's the saying? No is a complete sentence. You don't have to over-explain. One thing that can be helpful, as we just said, to refuse drinks, have a sober ally. So someone who is there with you or going with you, or who you find at this event or at this barbecue party, whatever it is, have someone there who is also not drinking. And this isn't necessarily an accountability thing. Like for me, it's not an accountability thing because I'm only accountable to myself and I'm sober for myself, because otherwise it wouldn't work. It can be if you're doing this as like a challenge to yourself or for discipline reasons, you just want to see, whatever, then it can be helpful to also have this person, this sober ally, for accountability. But the main reason I think is that you have that person who is going to understand when everything gets a bit too crazy and you don't want to get involved, because as the night goes on, people will get more and more drunk and be more and more silly, and you might feel more and more disconnected from these people because you are not in the same state of inebriation. So having a sober ally then means you've got someone sane, sober, who you can chat to and just hang out with. Either, yes, as I say, someone you go with, that's ideal, or someone you find there. So find someone who is like an athlete or who likes running and will be getting up the next morning early for a run, so doesn't want to be hungover. Find someone who's traveling the next day and is being sensible, so they're not drinking. Find someone with young children who doesn't want to be super hungover. There will be someone there. Find an addict. There might be a few of them there. They seem to be everywhere, or maybe that's just me being able to spot them. A recovering addict. And make these people your friends. Whoever you find, make them your friends and just explain, yeah, I'm not drinking either. Hopefully you can rely on them, or just go chat to them when everything else feels a bit overwhelming. Please remember that even though you're sober, you can still have fun. You might feel like it's boring, or you might even have some of your friends saying, oh, it's so boring that you're not drinking. Oh, go on, like have one. You can still have so much fun when you're sober, and you will actually remember it, which is nice because you're like, oh, I had that lovely conversation with this person, or it was really nice seeing this person. I danced at the sober wedding that I went to. The wedding itself wasn't sober, I was sober. I was sober at a wedding, everyone else was drinking. But that's the thing as well, because you know lots of other people there are drinking. It doesn't really matter if you feel like you're making a fool of yourself for dancing sober, because they're not going to remember it. They're going to have all been drinking, so you don't have to worry about them thinking that you look ridiculous, because they probably won't remember. I love dancing anyway, so it isn't that weird for me to dance sober. But in the lead up to it, you can always practice dancing. I dance all the time just because it's good for my mental health, and I like putting on like songs that I like and playing music really loud and just dancing around. That can be something to help you prepare for this event. If you're like, oh, I want to be sober but I'm worried about the dancing and I want to join in, I don't want to just be sat like awkwardly on a table. In the run up to this event, practice dancing. Put on some songs that you know they'll play, dance. Don't choreograph it, or if you do want to choreograph it and work out like what you're going to do that. Just make it as easy as possible for you to go to this event and have fun while not drinking. In this instance as well, it's helpful to remember about the spotlight effect, which is basically where you feel like everyone is focused on you. Everyone else is also thinking that about themselves. You know, like when you're walking down the street and you trip up and you feel like everyone saw and you feel embarrassed, or you say something wrong in a conversation and you feel like everyone picked up on it, and it's just like you're the one who's going to be hyper fixated on you. The same thing applies to people noticing you're not drinking. We'll get onto why no one really cares, but also with the dancing thing, or with having fun and just being silly, or trying to join in conversations and feeling awkward about not drinking. You're probably very aware of the fact that you're sober, but the other people aren't going to be paying attention to it, or maybe aren't even going to know. Keep in mind the spotlight effect. This helps me when I'm getting overly fixated on the way that I'm behaving and how I'm coming across and worried about what other people are thinking of me. As I I just said, remember, no one really cares. They might care for the conversation, they might care like when they ask you, oh, why are you not drinking? They'll care for that moment, but afterwards they'll just be like, oh, cool, move on. It's not a big deal. And especially if they are drinking, they're not gonna care. Like, they're not gonna remember really this interaction that they've had with you. So do not worry. No one really cares. I did a video about why it's actually amazing no one really cares about you, where I talk a bit more about that, so I'll leave that in the cards for you to check out if you would like. I would say appreciate the fact that you are sober at this event. Appreciate the fact that you can have a conversation and be really present with this person and really engage with them, particularly if, as I say, they are another sober person, your sober friend, your sober ally. Appreciate the fact that you can have conversations, that you can remember what happened, that you can dance like crazy, but also know that you're not embarrassing yourself because you're aware of what you're doing. And if you're making a fool of yourself, you're choosing to do that as opposed to just doing it drunkenly and thinking that you look really cool or you're dancing really well. Another way that you can appreciate the fact that you're sober, as well as appreciating the whole experience, is to make plans the day after. Take advantage of the fact that you are hangover free the next day. So decide that you're gonna wake up an hour early to do some reading, or to go and sit outside because it'll be light outside because it's summer, to go and have breakfast outside somewhere, to go to your nearest green space and have a nice early morning walk. Take advantage of the fact that you had a sober night out that now you're able to appreciate the next morning hangover free. I would also say something to reflect on is how you feel afterwards about this event. So notice how you feel the next day. Do you feel relieved because you can remember everything that happened? Do you feel proud of yourself for doing a sober event which maybe you thought you couldn't do because you have social anxiety, or you worry about what other people think, or you just didn't think that you would be able to have a fun night out while sober? Notice how you feel. Do you feel like you missed out? For me, this was definitely something that I thought a lot about afterwards, just because, as I said, I'm in recovery, so it's not so much the event itself which is dangerous, but it can be how you feel afterwards. I had to be mindful of, am I feeling resentful? Because resentment is one of the worst things I can feel in recovery, because that's gonna drive me back to a drink. So that's something to be really aware of for me. If you feel like you had a really positive experience, or you feel like you missed out, whatever it is, try not to be judgmental of it and just acknowledge whatever you're feeling and be like, oh, cool, that's how I felt. Fine. Maybe journal about it if you like. I love writing about these things. Journaling about it is definitely something that's helpful for me. I've done a few journaling videos. I will link them up here and in the description if you want to check them out, because it can be really helpful to not only think things through and reflect on things, but also actually put words to your feelings and try and construct it in a sentence by sentence way, as opposed to, I don't know about you, but I can feel like it's sort of a cloud in my head and all of these things are happening. Journaling about it makes me concentrate all of that noise into like one linear narrative, like picking out the main threads of my inner monologue, as opposed to just being like overwhelmed by all of the different things that are happening. So writing about it afterwards, positive or negative, can be really helpful. So I hope this has given you some tips for your sober girl summer, and I wish you the best of luck. And it is definitely possible to have lots of fun sober. I have to hope so, and I know it's true because I have plenty of experiences not drinking over the past year and nearly year and a half, so that's cool. That's coming up for me. But I've had plenty of experiences the past year and a half not drinking and still having a lot of fun. So it's definitely possible. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe if you want to see more from me. God bless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.